Some say Muhammad alayhi salatu wasalam was just a warlord, that he spread Islam by the sword, and that he persecuted Jews and Christians in his time. These claims are repeated by critics who have either never read history or love twisting it. Let's deal with this directly with facts, theology, and historical evidence. The most influential man in history, and it's not who you think. In 1978, an American historian by the name Michael Hart dropped a bombshell. His book, The 100, a ranking of the most influential persons in history, shocked the Western world. At the top of the list, above Jesus alayhi salam, above Newton, above Einstein, it was Muhammad. Yes, Prophet Muhammad alayhi salatu wasalam. Michael Hart says in his book, and I quote, "He was the only man in history who was supremely successful in both the religious and the secular levels." And now you might say, but wasn't Muhammad a warlord? Wasn't he a political leader? Didn't he fight battles? Yes, and so did every leader of his time. But here is the punchline. Historians don't judge by fairy tales. They judge by facts. And the facts? Muhammad alayhi salatu wasalam united warring tribes who had been butchering each other for centuries. He brought law, literacy, and justice to a chaotic Arabia. His message birthed a civilization that gave the world algebra, hospitals, optics, universities, and so on. And here is the kicker. Christian scholars, yes, some of them, admit it. Lamartine, for example, a French historian, called him the greatest man who ever lived. Montgomery Watt, a Christian academic, said that Muhammad's characters stood supremely above his contemporaries. So let me ask you this. If he was just a warlord, why do the men who actually studied him respect him? Why do the facts slap the slander in the face? Because legends fade. Propaganda dies, but the truth survives. Muhammad alayhi salatu wasalam wasn't a warlord, he was a world changer. And history, real history, raw history, says so. So study him before you judge him. If he was a warlord, why did even his enemies trust him? Before Muhammad alayhi salatu wasalam even preached a single verse from the Quran, they called him Al-Amin, the trustworthy. The man Quraysh left their treasures with, the man they trusted to settle their disputes. Even when they hated his message, they never called him a liar. So what did they hate about him? It's the truth that he brought, a truth that shattered their power games, a truth that dared to say the slave is equal to his master. The poor has the same worth as the rich. No man is better than another except by piety. That's what they couldn't handle. Not Muhammad's sword, but Muhammad's justice. Not his battles, but his boldness to tear down their idols and their arrogance. The chiefs of Quraysh, for example, didn't fear war. They feared a world where Bilal radiallahu anh stood shoulder to shoulder with Abu Jahl. A world where the oppressed had rights, where kings bowed to God the Almighty, not their egos. And that's why they fought him. Not because he was a tyrant, but because he refused to be one of them. He didn't come to conquer lands. He came to conquer hearts. And history, real, raw history, knows it. They feared justice, not Muhammad alayhi salatu wasalam. Let me give you a couple statements of what his enemies said. Number one, Abu Sufyan, before accepting Islam, when asked by Heraclius of Rome whether Muhammad alayhi salatu wasalam ever lied, Abu Sufyan, then the Quraysh leader at war with the Prophet, admitted, no, he never told a lie. Even in a hostile setting, he couldn't bring himself to accuse the Prophet Muhammad والسلام, of dishonesty. Number two, Abu Jahl, who is the chief opponent of Islam. He said openly, "We don't call you a liar, but we deny what you have brought." And the Quran testifies of this. In the meaning of the translation, they weren't attacking his characters. They hated his message of Tawheed and justice. Number three, Utbah ibn Rabi'a, a Quraysh chief, after hearing the Quran from the Prophet Muhammad والسلام's lips, Utbah told the Quraysh, "I have heard words the like of which I have never heard before. By Allah, it is not poetry, nor magic, nor soothsaying." Ibn Hisham as-Sirah, he recognized the divine weight of the message, but pride kept him away. And number four, Abu Lahab, his uncle and sworn enemy. Though he despised him, even Abu Lahab never accused Muhammad والسلام, of lying. Instead, he mocked the call, not the caller. He said, "May you perish. Is this why you gathered us?" And this is recorded in the Quran as well. He never called him dishonest, only attacked his message. These enemies did not fear a liar. They feared a man who spoke the truth, that crushed their pride, their idols, and their power. The question now still stands: was Muhammad a warlord? And from an academic perspective, what is a warlord? A man hungry for power, leading raids for greed, crushing opponents to dominate. Does that describe the Prophet Muhammad والسلام? Let's look at the facts. Muhammad والسلام, suffered 13 years of persecution in Mecca, never raised a sword. Even when tortured, boycotted, and attacked, he preached patience and mercy. والسلام. When he migrated to Medina, did he attack Mecca? No. He only fought when attacked in self-defense. The Quran makes this clear in the meaning of translation. Permission to fight is given to those who are wronged. And Ibn Taymiyyah rahimahullah explained that jihad in Islam is defensive, not aggression, but protection of faith and life. Jihad has many meanings, and none of them got to do anything with the sword. What I'm doing right now is jihad. Inviting people to show forgiveness is jihad. Enjoining the right and forbidding the wrong is jihad. And most of all, correcting the misconceptions, confirming the truth, and debunking falsehood. This is the greatest jihad, not the sword. Unlike warlords who killed for power, Muhammad والسلام, set strict war ethics. No harming civilians, no killing women, children, or monks, no destroying crops or places of worship. Abu Bakr, radiallahu anhu, his closest companion, commanded armies saying, "Do not betray, do not mutilate, do not kill a child or elderly or woman." When Mecca finally surrendered, did Muhammad والسلام, seek revenge? No, he forgave them all, saying, "Go, for you are free." That's not a warlord. That's a prophet of mercy, والسلام. Did Muhammad والسلام, persecute Jews and Christians? The reality is, Jews and Christians lived under his rule safely. He signed covenants with them, guaranteeing protection of life, faith, and property. The Constitution of Medina declared, "To the Jews their religion, and to the Muslims theirs. They are one community in justice." Only when certain tribes betrayed the treaty, like Banu Khurayza, during wartime, did the conflict arise. Ibn al-Qayyim rahimahullah, he actually stated that the Prophet Muhammad والسلام, never punished a people for their faith, only for trickery and aggression. No forced conversions, no religious persecution. The Quran says clearly there is no compulsion in religion. And also, you will find the nearest in love to the believers, those who say we are Christians. The Prophet Muhammad والسلام, taught respect, not persecution. Even Christian historians such as Thomas Arnold admitted the early Muslim rulers did not attempt to force Islam on the subject peoples. Islam's theology itself rejects persecution. So why is Muhammad والسلام, called a warlord? Because those who can't refute his message attack his character. It's easier to call him warlord than to accept he was the final messenger of Allah Azza wa Jal. One of my favorite historian, Karen Armstrong, the famous historian, said, Muhammad والسلام, was not a man of violence, but a statement of peace. History speaks, not propaganda. Was Muhammad a warlord? Did he persecute Jews and Christians? He was a prophet of justice, mercy, and divine law. The Quran says, in the meaning of the translation, we have not sent you except as a mercy to the worlds. That's the truth for those honest enough to look. Subscribe for clear answers on Islam. Drop your questions. Let's face the facts, not the fiction. Read the Quran and study the life of the Prophet Muhammad والسلام, for yourself. Don't let the media tell you that the Prophet Muhammad is a warlord.